Now, would your proposal force a homeowner, for instance, to sell or rent to someone he may not wish to?
Oh, not at all. Actually, there's so much misconception along these lines. The fair housing law will simply say that it will be against the law to discriminate in the sale, rental, or leasing or financing of housing strictly on the basis of race, color, creed, or national origin, or religion, of course.
The Wisconsin trailblazer Vel R. Phillips would have turned 100 today. This is video from our archives in 1967 when Phillips pushed for fair housing as a member of Milwaukee's Common Council. Phillips was the first black woman in the country elected to statewide office as Secretary of State. She was also Wisconsin's first black woman judge. Phillips died 5 years ago, and now there's an urgent push to honor her legacy in both Milwaukee and Madison. Joining us now is her son, Michael Phillips. Michael, welcome to Upfront.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. You just heard the list of accomplishments, the list of firsts that your mom achieved. You obviously know them better than anyone. What do you make of her life and legacy?
What do I make of her life and legacy?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. In one sense, I'd have to say what is old is new again. There are so many relevant episodes that my mom was able to engage with back in the late 1950s and 1960s. And who would have believed that 50 years later, some of the same issues present themselves, have reared their ugly heads in this society again. So I would say that not only was her legacy of civil rights pertinent and relevant back then, but it is even more so today.
What do you think that she would make of today's current political climate?
Strangely enough, behind closed doors, yeah, she'd have some things to say. But my mom, believe it or not, was as a strong an individual to work across the aisle as I've ever seen. One of the things that we've been able to do is gain bipartisanship for the statue of my mother that's going to go up on state capitol grounds here. Not a single contrary vote. Something I'm quite proud of.
We know that right now the Vel R. Phillips Plaza is being constructed in downtown Milwaukee, and then there's that effort to bring what would be the first statue of a black woman on the grounds of any state capitol in the country. What do you make of that historical moment?
Boy, oh boy. It's odd, isn't it, that it would take until 2024 for a black woman to stand on state capitol grounds anywhere in the country. It sort of beggars belief, but if anyone is going to do it, I believe my mom is a prime candidate for it. And one of the reasons is because my mom was a listener. She was a leader, but she was able to step into people's shoes, to understand them, to listen to them. She had better radar for human beings than anyone that I've ever known. And that's the reason that we've gotten bipartisanship. That's the reason that people have flocked to this effort, because my mom was a beacon of tolerance.
Going back to the monument that you're hoping to erect on the state grounds there in Madison, what's the latest in that effort? I know at last check it was a fundraising effort. When do you think that would actually come into fruition?
Right. We've had a couple of setbacks with COVID, and I will admit that unfortunately our sculptor passed away, but we have pressed on. His gallery in New York and the fabrication works in Philadelphia. We just visited them. I was unable to go myself, but my people went, and we are on the verge of creating the large piece. We had a small scale model that Radcliffe had made, but we are blowing that up to full size, and we're going to bronze that thing. It is happening. So we expect either late summer or early fall.
And are you still pushing for contributions?
The fundraising effort? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We need I'd say about $50,000 left, because one of the things we decided to do early on was to not ask the state for any money at all. We're funding this thing privately. Part of the reason is because we've got all kinds of buy-in from across the aisle, but when you start asking folks for money, it can complicate things. I would rather not do so. So we've got about $50,000 left of our private funding effort to go.
And the entire state of Wisconsin thinking about her on what would have been her 100th birthday. Michael Phillips, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Up next, Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.